Okay ji, welcome back, and these are the list of question participant asked after attending or during attending session 2 of webinar SPSS series. I will also upload the video of session 2 in YouTube. So in this separate video I am going to answer your questions, and these are the 48 questions, and I will try to be as brief as possible and to make your concept clear. The first thing, sir, please do discuss the use of mediation, double mediation, and moderation. Can you prepare the methodology in all mediation cases, especially for the penal and cross-sectional studies? This question is not related to the content of this webinar series. So I can take another session on mediation, moderation, and structure question modeling or factor analysis separately. But this webinar series, 3-day webinar series, does not cover the content of this. So I would skip this question because it does not fall in the content of the 3 days webinar series. Number 2, sir, I have 2 questions from the worksheet but can't figure out the answer. So if you have a question on related to the worksheet, I will send you the email. So if someone has a question related to this worksheet, because I give you the worksheet for your own practice, and the answer is also there. So I will make the explanation after every answer, so you can check the explanation of every answer and it will clarify your concept. Sir, the last answer, again this question will be answered in the Google form and you can see the explanation there. Sir, you said the inferential static tests like ANOVA and t-test are done when we test hypothesis. Sir, my question is that these tests can be used to analyze research question as well. Research questions usually is made for in qualitative research. Statistics, inferential statistics is used only test null hypothesis, only used to test the hypothesis. Now you can draw the hypothesis based on the research question. There is no way you can test the research question, because research question can never be tested, can never be analyzed. Only the hypothesis is tested based on the data. So you may have a research question, and based on research question you can make hypothesis, and based on hypothesis you can run the analysis. Okay, so usually research question is for qualitative research. In quantitative research, hypothesis is sufficient, because if you write the objectives, if you write the research question, if you write the hypothesis, it kind of redundant information. So you cannot analyze the research question. You can only test the hypothesis, and hypothesis can be formulated based on the objective or research question. Number 5, learning is also construct. That is why we make test. Then why we make a test? Yes, you are right. Learning is a construct. Then why we make test is this. Actually, you are giving the answer of your own question. We make a test because we cannot measure learning directly. So what is test? Test is also a set of questions. Test is also a questionnaire, because there is no way you can measure learning directly. Therefore you make a test. What test? Set of questions to measure the learning indirectly. So for example, if you want to measure students' grammar, English grammar skill, there is no way, there is no one question that can measure English grammar. So you need certain item. 5 item may be for related to preposition, 5 item may be related to reading, 5 item may be related to tenses. This 15 item test can help you to measure English grammar proficiency. So learning is a construct. You are right. Why we make test? Because we cannot measure learning directly. That's why we make tests. Test means set of question or questionnaire to measure learning indirectly. Sir, can we say construct means hidden attribute? I answered this question in the first video, in the question answer session of first video. It's not a hidden attribute. Actually, construct is something that cannot be measured directly. It's not a tangible, it's an abstract thing, like emotion, like anxiety, like job satisfaction, like ability, learning ability, performance. These are attitude, opinion, these all are construct. but I cannot say it's a hidden attribute, because someone can see your personality, someone can see your emotional intelligence, someone can see your aggression, someone can see how you deal with the people, someone can see your opinion, but someone cannot measure these things. So these are the abstract things. How we use t-test also, where we use f-test also. F-test is used for ANOVA test or regression, and yesterday I told you how you can run ANOVA. ANOVA is actually use f-test. If I have one variable and two groups, which test is more suitable? Independent t-test or then what is chi-square? If you have one variable and two groups, then independent t-test is more suitable. Okay, you can also run the ANOVA. If you have two groups, then either you run ANOVA or independent t-test. Both will produce an identical result, same result. So if you have two groups, it is better to use independent t-test. If you have more than two groups, it is better to use ANOVA. Then what is chi-square? Chi-square I explained the first video as well, but let me briefly explain. Chi-square used when you have two categorical data. Categorical data means you want to see a political affiliation and gender, or you may see, you want to see how people may I mean, there's a phenomena that people say that female goes to medical field, males goes to engineering field. So you may conduct a research whether the gender has some kind of influence in career choice. Then you ask two questions: number one, gender from participant, and number two, their career choice, which career they would like to prefer. Now you have a two variable, gender and career choice. Gender has two categories, male and female. Career choice has two categories, engineering or medical. And you want to see the association, then you will use chi-square. So chi-square use when you have a categorical data, both variable are categorical. Number 9, is there any difference between professional attitude scale and professional attitude index? I don't know what you are talking about, because this thing is not related to statistics. This thing is also not related to research. This thing is not related to this webinar. Maybe this is specifically related to your kind of research. So I am not going into detail. I need to look at that what you mean by professional attitude scale. This is specifically your research. You need to figure it out. Number 10, can't we compute score with sum only if there is a score? Say yes for the for the construct. No, I say I also explained this question in the first video. It is not suggested or recommended to make to compute the sum only, because sum is actually the aggregated score. Now aggregated score does not represent the set of a score. By definition, average is the number that represents that set of a score. For example, if you are teaching one class, in class there are students and there are you are taking at MCQs of 20 marks, everyone got the marks. So if someone asks what is the performance of your class, so you need to simply take the average and tell that my class test score या quiz score average is 15 or 17. So this 17 or 15 is the average, represent the complete data set, a complete your class. But the sum of the test score or sum of the score does not represent the quiz or construct. So therefore it is better to take the average rather than compute the sum of a score. Please explain what would be the sample size for good reliability in such type of hypothesis. Again, sample sizes depend on the nature of your population and nature of your study. Ideally, the minimum required sample size is 200 to 300 for any analysis like independent test, dependent test, ANOVA quotient. The more sample size is better choice, because the more sample size would have a less error. So minimum sample size should be 200 to 300. Please repeat the compute variable step. Compute variable steps I also repeated in the while answering the first question answer video. You can watch it. Degree of freedom. Degree of freedom actually tells you how much choice the system has or algorithm has. The degree of freedom actually in independent test, degree of freedom is n minus 2. So degree of freedom is also important to report in your result, because it tells you the sample size, that how many sample size you have, and also tell you the number of groups. So APA also required that you should mention degree of freedom in your report. If you have more than 13 members, can we use t-test? Yes, we can use t-test. There is no deal, no big deal. Please also do analysis of regression, coefficient, chi-square, factor analysis, reliability. In third session, this is question related to the second session. In second session, we discuss about independent t-test, dependent t-test, ANOVA. In third session, we will discuss about regression and coefficient. While chi-square factor analysis will not be covered in these 3 days, so we'll in third session we'll cover these 2 topics, and your answer will be covered given in this third day. When to use split the option to split the male and female? I don't think that we need to use this thing. It actually up to you, and you don't need to split the file option, because I told you you can also make a select cases option. The select case options, like this is a select view data and select cases. So if you want to analyze male only, you can put the condition if gender is equal to 1. So then whatever analysis you will run, it will be male only. So instead of splitting male different, female different, it is better to use select cases, because the file will be manageable. You will have a one file with male and female both. Is it necessary the hypothesis would be in negations? Actually, null hypothesis is always in negations. So there is no significant difference, there is no significant relationship, there is no significant effect. So you write only null hypothesis, or you can also write the alternative hypothesis, but statistics, inferential statistics test null hypothesis only. So it is always recommended to write null hypothesis, because the test, independent test, dependent test the null hypothesis only. It is confidence level alpha. Alpha is actually the set probability of error. Usually we set 0.05. So 0.05 or 0.01. So this is the set alpha. Can we run syntax to accommodate value? Yes, syntax actually is in SPS is this is point and click program. SPS also provide you the calculations. So like you programming. So this is the syntax menu. You can write coding here. If for beginner, even for moderator, intermediate, this is hard to write a syntax. If someone is good in programming, then he can use this syntax option rather than point and click. So your question that can we make a syntax to get accommodated? Yes, we can do it. And so when to use Cohen-D and post-hoc? Cohen-D is used to measure the effect size, and post-hoc test is used if your ANOVA is significant and you want to see a pairwise comparison. And hopefully in third session we'll cover it too. Sir, please significantly confused, kindly again find very grateful. We'll discuss more in third session. When null hypothesis is rejected, then we go for post-hoc test. It depends. If you have independent test or dependency test or correlation, there is no post hoc test on independent test, dependency test, and correlation. Post hoc test is only used in ANOVA, one-way ANOVA, two-way ANOVA, or MANOVA. Like if you are running ANOVA, if ANOVA is rejected, then you go to the post hoc test. Post hoc test means to compare the pairwise comparison. If you said alpha is 0.1, then we fail to reject null hypothesis. What is contradiction? How to deal with this case? I don't understand this question. If your set alpha is 1% and you fail to reject, that means that this the conclusion you made, the decision you made is 1% probability of error. In other words, the conclusion you made is 99% confidence of accuracy. Both may feel are different numbers, then running independent test to both groups are equal. Yes, I also answered this question in the first video. Let me repeat again. It is not necessary that male and female participants should be equal. In independent test, both male and female or both group, morning, evening, urban, rural can be different. But the difference in the two groups should not be very huge. So male can be 100, female can be 150, you can run independent test. But what if male is 20 and female is 300, then it does, even you can run independent test. But it does not make sense to compare male with a female when male are only 20 and female are 300. if there are the difference in sample size in both groups, you can run independent t-test, but the difference should be not a huge. How to analyze pre-test and post-test? Yeah, I told you in the session 2 video. Pre and post is you can run dependent t-test or pair t-test. Pair t-test or dependent t-test is used for pre-test and post-test kind of data. For interference between male and female, is it necessary to have almost a nearly equal number? No, it is not equally. It is not important or most important necessary to have equal number. You may have a different group size. When you measure effect of independent variable, dependent variable, which test would be appropriate? Independent variable on dependent variable, then the regression would be appropriate analysis, and we'll cover regression in the third day or today. What is standard error? Standard error is a variation in a standard deviation. Standard deviation itself a variation, but if you have a different sample size and then you want to see the variation, that standard error is the variation in the set of standard deviation. In other words, standard error is also called measurement error. So the lower the standard error, which means the lower the measurement error or sampling error. The independent can only be conducted for null hypothesis. Actually, almost all hypotheses test the null hypothesis. So it is whether it is independent, dependent, ANOVA, coercion, regression, all test this null hypothesis. Can you please list the steps for doing the spaces? We are doing all this list for last 2 days, and you can watch the videos. I am going to upload it. That will help you to figure it out. It is mandatory to have a sample size more than 100 for sample. No, it is not mandatory, but it is recommended. You can run the analysis for 50 samples, 60 samples. If you are conducting a pilot testing, you can run the spaces analysis with 60 samples, 40 samples. So it is not necessary, but it is recommended for actual result that you should have at least minimum 200 to 300 sample size. Please clear what is f value in the test. F value is actually the calculated value, because f is based on the formula just like a t. So the f value is calculated f value, and based on this calculated value the SPSS determine its significance. So the significance value you see in the SPSS output is determined based on this f value. The higher the f value, the more chances of rejecting the null hypothesis. 32. Can we use ANOVA for 4 group or more? Yes, we can use. ANOVA can be used for 2 or more than 2 groups. So if you have 5 groups, 7 groups, 6 groups, you can run the ANOVA. Is the normal data distribution required for ANOVA? Yes, normal data is required for ANOVA. Means to compare 2 groups when we use independent test, and for more groups we can apply ANOVA. Yes, you are right. If you are 2 groups, you need to use ANOVA independent test. If you have more than 2 groups, better to use ANOVA. Difference between one-way ANOVA and two-way ANOVA. One-way ANOVA is used when you have one factor, like if you want to compare teacher qualification based on you want to compare teacher performance based on teacher qualification, and you have a qualification like a master, MPhil, PhD, and you want to compare teacher performance based on the qualification. That will be one-way ANOVA. So for example, you want to compare teachers performance based on the qualification. Qualification is master, MPhil and PhD. So you will use one-way ANOVA. Okay, forget about the spelling. And for example, you want to compare teacher performance based on the qualification and as well as based on the gender, and gender is further 2 categories, male and female. So this will be called two-way ANOVA, because there are 2 factors. One factor is qualification, other factor is gender. So this is the difference between one-way ANOVA and two-way ANOVA. Please repeat again one way what is factor. Factor is an independent variable. So in this case, look at teacher qualification is a factor. Gender is a factor. If you have one factor, it's called one-way ANOVA. If you have two factors, it's called two-way ANOVA. One-way ANOVA, two-way ANOVA, please explain difference. I already explained. Please tell if you have two or more with groups, how it will be done in ANOVA. Simply, if you have two or more than two variables with groups, I don't understand. If you have more than two groups, then you it considers a factor and you can run it in ANOVA, and I explain in the video of session 2. I want to learn how to validate questionnaire. How can I do validate questionnaire? Again, it's not the mandate of this 3 days webinar series. I can make a separate video for this to make a validation of questionnaire. Can we check the normality of checking the mean median mode? Yes. If mean median mode is same or almost same, then you can say that data is normally distributed. Sir, please explain normative data. What does it mean? How it can be checked? I explained you in the yesterday at the end of the sessions. Someone asked from you, and I explained what is normality and how you can assess it. And same question from this part, what p-value is less than f-value. F-value has nothing to do with the p-value. Okay, p-value is determined, p-value is compared with our set alpha. Actually, p-value is calculated in SPSS based on the f-value. You cannot compare p-value with the f-value. You can compare f-value. So you have to compare p-value with set alpha. Okay, it's not, we do not compare alpha with f value. If p-value is a range between 0 and what does it mean? It means that you reject null hypothesis. For applying the independent agent is to have one variable as category, another is yes. One should be categorical and other is ratio. Discuss post hoc test. I already explained in the first in above questions. Why we use text to a word file? Again, this is the purpose of research, that you have to analyze human intelligence involved. What about the group interpretation in ANOVA? Difference between one-tail and two-tail test. One-tail test when you are going to the one direction, and two-tail test if you are going to two directions. For example, if you want to see a significant difference, it is called two-tail test. If you want to see if one group is higher than the other group, if purpose of research is one group is higher, then it's called one-tail test. So these are the answers of your questions. I hope that you got the point and you understand, you got the answer of your question. Please let me know if you have any more question, and then I am going to upload this video in YouTube. You can watch it and let me give your feedback as well. Thank you so much.